Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing well, and this is the first ever Q&A of this channel. I recently posted a full review of the Sony a7 V and compared it with the Sony a7 IV, and you guys had a lot of questions. So I thought let's not answer them single one by one and combine them and answer them all at one place. So I posted an Instagram story asking you guys if you have any questions, and man, you guys had a lot. So I selected few of them questions from the YouTube comment section, Instagram stories, and combined it in one place. So I'll try to answer as many of them in a single video in a single place. So if you guys had any questions, confusions, I hope this video will help you to resolve that. So let's start with the first question. Okay, so the first question is, can it shoot 4K 60 without a crop? Yes, the Sony a7 V finally can shoot 4K 60 while using the full width of the sensor. I mean, it doesn't apply any crop while shooting at 4K 60. So yes, if you are shooting any slow motion and with a ultra wide or wide angle lens, you don't have to compromise on either of those. You can use the full sensor while shooting 4K 60, which is a really helpful update on the Sony a7 V. Moving on to the next one. The second question is, does it record 4K 120? Yes, finally the Sony a7 V can shoot 4K 120. But as the Sony a7 IV used to put a 1.5x crop on the 4K 60, the Sony a7 V now does the same to 4K 120 fps. It can apply few other limitations depending on which codec you are using. So yes, it can shoot 4K 120, but check the codecs carefully before shooting. And yes, it also put a 1.5x crop, so be careful with that as well. The third question is, does it feel heavier than the a7 IV? Not really. I mean, I have used the Sony a7 IV for last 3-4 years, and I have been using the Sony a7 V for last 2-3 months. And yes, on spec sheet there is a difference of weight, but the weight difference is very minimal, and when you mount a lens and using it in a real shooting scenario, I mean, I have never felt any difference in weight. So yeah, not really. The fourth question is, did the battery life improve? I mean, a little. I am used to the Sony a7 IV, and still the Sony a7 V uses the same battery, but yes, due to the new processor, better power management, Sony a7 V gives you a better battery life. I mean, I have recently shot a podcast which I have rolled for around 1.5 hours, and at the end of that shoot, I have seen the Sony a7 IV was dying at 10 to 15%, but the Sony a7 V still has 40 to 45, 50% around that range. So yeah, it seems really high. But you have to understand, the Sony a7 IV's battery is almost 4 years older at this point. So it has degraded with time. But the Sony a7 V's battery is at its peak. So yeah, it's slightly better, but the same battery. So if you shoot wedding events, or if you are planning to shoot something for the whole day extensively, I still suggest to carry extra batteries. But yeah, the battery life is improved. Okay, so the question number 5 is, what's the one thing you don't like? I have been using the Sony a7 V for few months at this point, and I really love the camera. I really genuinely do. But one thing that disappoints me, when it launched, I really expected Sony will introduce OpenGate with the Sony a7 V, but they didn't. So yeah, if I have to find out one thing that disappoints me about the Sony a7 V, it's the lack of OpenGate at this price point. Yeah, that's it, but we have nothing to do about that. Okay, so question number 6. What's your favorite feature after using it for a few weeks? Brother, I have been using it for months. Slight flex. Okay, so Sony a7 V has a lot to love about it, but if I have to mention my most favorite features of the Sony a7 V, there are 3 or top of my mind. First thing, the display. I mean, yes, it seems very simple at first, but once you get used to this display, it's hard to go back. Secondly, the AI autofocus. It seems really simple at first, I mean, just like any other camera, but once you start using it in real life scenarios, you understand how the autofocus is better, improved, and how faster it works. It's still classic Sony. The autofocus, every time you use the camera, it gives you a reality check of how far Sony has improved. And the third thing I love about this camera is the dual base ISO. I mean, yeah, Sony a7 IV still has the dual base ISO, but the dual base ISO at the Sony a7 IV is 3200. But on this one, it's 8000. So if you are shooting in low light scenarios, this one's a game changer. Okay, so question number 7. Does it support open gate recording? Brother, no. The Sony a7 V can't shoot in open gate. I'm disappointed, you are disappointed, we all are disappointed. Let's move on. Okay, so now the question number 8. How long can it record before overrating? Well, I have not tested it with that limit intended, but all I can say is I have been using the Sony a7 V in pretty much all kind of scenarios for shooting all of my content, client shoots, everything, pretty much everything. Also, I have posted a recent cinematic video which I have shot in Purulia with the Sony a7 V, which was shot in peak summer, where the temperature was around 46 to 50 degrees Celsius. But this camera didn't give me any warning about heating. I have used 4K 60, 4K 120, continuous frames in still modes, and it worked like a champ. So yeah, I don't have any specific number that it can shoot for this many hours or time, but all I can say is I have used it in pretty much every kind of scenario and it didn't give me any heating warning. So yeah, confidently saying Sony has really improved the thermals on the Sony a7 V. Moving on to the next one. Question number 9. Has the rolling shutter improved? Yes, it's noticeably better. The faster pans, quick movements looks a lot cleaner on the Sony a7 V. If you are shooting a lot of handheld content, sports, wedding, when your camera needs to move faster, you will appreciate the faster sensor readout. Now, you have to understand it's not a global shutter, so it has its own limitations. But compared to the older models, it's significantly better. Question number 10. How does it perform in low light? One of my most favorite part about the Sony a7 V is shooting in low light because it features dual base ISO. The first base is 800 and the second base is 8000. So when you are shooting in low light with this beast, it looks cleaner and much better than any other older model of the A7 series. So yeah, shooting in low light with the Sony a7 V is a delight. Okay, so for last 2 questions, I have picked 2 really interesting questions. Question number 11. Have you heard anything about Sony FX3 Mark II? Well, Sony hasn't officially announced anything yet, so I don't know. And I have been thinking about buying an FX3 for quite a while. I mean, as you guys can see, my work has shifted from photo to video a lot. And when my a7 IV and a7 V is still doing absolutely fine, FX3 is a legendary camera when you're talking about videos. So I have been thinking about buying an FX3 for a while, but I thought to wait for a while if Sony launches anything new. FX3 is really old at this point and I thought to take a step back and wait for a while. So yes, Sony hasn't officially updated anything about FX3 Mark II and I don't know. I can't say anything about it yet, so I don't know. Moving on to the next one. Question number 12. Do you think the FX5 will have a global shutter sensor? First of all, FX5, what's that? I don't know. Sony hasn't officially announced anything yet, so we don't know if there's any FX5 coming or not. Also, I can't say if I'm testing any new camera from Sony. I mean, I'm not allowed to say it yet, But yeah, it's good that you have already fixed that Sony FX5 is coming. Now, if it has global shutter or not, well, FX5 could have global shutter. I don't know, but I have seen the rumors that FX5 has the menu system of Venice and it has a body like the FX6 but in a smaller shape. So does it has global shutter? I mean, who knows? I don't at least. I mean, if Sony announces FX5, then we will eventually figure out. But as of now, I can't say anything. Okay, so these are some of the most common questions I got about the Sony a7 V on YouTube and Instagram. So I selected all of them in one place and tried to answer them all. If you still have any question about the Sony a7 V, do let me know in the comment section down below. See you guys next one. Till then, tada.